mute me. You're welcome to Pepper's webinar for this month. The theme for this month is elevate your business, develop and sustain your brand. So essentially, we'll be learning how to um, sustain our businesses would learn how to build our businesses by sustaining our brand. And we have a very amazing professional. Amanda is the lead strategist and founder of Branding Africa. The last time that we met at a conference, and network did not allow us to share, so this time around, we're going to have Amanda uh, at our own point here, and we'll definitely look forward to learning from her. She's also a Mandela Washington Fellowship alumnus, and she's the winner of the 2023 Rising Star Award. So over to you, Amanda. Don't let me say too much so that I don't take away your shine here.
As much as you want. I'm going to switch on my camera if that's fine.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Awesome. So that you can actually see the person who is talking to you, and that it's not, you're not just talking to a robot of sorts. But hi, everyone. We're going to try and make this as engaging as possible and as fun as possible because it's Friday.
Yeah.
So seeing that it's Friday, we're going to try and have a good time on a Friday, even if we're talking about business and branding. And though those are very important parts of building anything, we're going to try and as much as possible to make it engaging and to also make sure that if you have any questions, honestly, you can stop me in my chats and I can answer your questions. Or if you can, type them in the chat in there, I'm sure Pulumi will just kind of help be able to see all of the questions if they do come in. But like I said, if you have a question while I'm talking, you are welcome to just stop me and say, hold the bus. What are you saying? But just like like you were saying, short introduction, I founded a branding agency called Branding Africa. I'm the lead strategist there and also the founder. We just help businesses and brands in Africa develop sustainable and great brands. Just helping entrepreneurs like yourself build great brands or turn their businesses into brands as well. The two don't come automatically. Sometimes a brand is not the same as a business and the business is not the same as a brand, but they work hand in hand together. So I'll get through what the difference is between the two, but just in essence, that's what I do. I've been in business for the past 10 years. I started my first business in 2014, and I ran that business for about 5 years. It got invested in and eventually sold. And then I started over again in 2018, and that is where I am today. I've had the most roller coaster journey of my life when it comes to entrepreneurship. This life doesn't come easy. Being an entrepreneur comes with its challenges, and building a brand also comes with its challenges. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's experienced any of these challenges. You are not a stranger to being broke. You're not a stranger to having challenges, not knowing where to start, being stuck, chasing invoices. I'm sure you're not a stranger to any of those challenges, but at the end of the day, it comes with its rewards. It comes with freedom, which is always fantastic. So that's an introduction on myself, just a quick one. I'm based in South Africa, in Johannesburg. Born and raised to the side, and I love my country. So yeah, I'm based in Johannesburg, but Branding Africa operates both in Johannesburg, South Africa, and also in Kampala, Uganda. So we are we're trying to infiltrate the East African markets, obviously after the South African market as well. So we'll get into, elevating your business by developing and like a sustainable brand. First of all, I think branding is such an interesting topic, specifically because people think branding is what it is not. People might think that branding is your logo, People might think that branding is your website, it's your, if you have a product, if you have an app, that you might think that your branding is the logo that goes on your app, or is the colors that you use in your app. And all of those things, though they are visual elements of what your, or what your brand represents, that is not your brand. So I mean, you can just let me know in the comments, if I said what is a brand, what would you say? Like, how would you say this is what a brand is? You can just like let me know in the comments, or because there's like a nice intimate number of us, you can just unmute yourself and tell me what you think a brand is. If I'm saying that your brand is not your logo, it's not your website, it's not um your app, it's not your product, it's not your service. If I said your brand is not any of those things, what would you say your brand is? So if I said, what is a brand? If that's the question, how would you answer that? Like, you can just unmute yourself and just shout it in the top of your lungs, or just type it in the comments and let me know what you think a brand is. You know, what is a brand? While I'm telling you that a brand is not your logo. So a brand is not, let me just take some, a brand is not, you know, the mini apple, the eaten apple from any Apple products. A brand is not what is put on a pin, you know, it is not any of those things. But I'll let you know what a brand is. A brand is a feeling, you know, a brand is a perception. It's what someone thinks about your business when you are not in the room. When I say, if I talk about myself, and someone can say, oh no, Amanda is this person, that person, but without having to say, um, oh, she looks like this. You know, a brand is a feeling. So someone says in the comment, would say a brand is my identity. You're not wrong. And I think a brand is the identity of the business. It is how people see your business. Absolutely. So, like I said, a brand is a perception. It's what someone thinks of your business even before they see your logo and all of those things. So, everything that I had mentioned are really just visual representations of what your brand is. It's what people can pinpoint and say, oh, now I have put a picture to the feeling that I have. You know, if you're talking about personal branding, which is really the same principles in terms of building a personal brand and a business brand, you might say that, you know, Amanda is a fun loving person. That is not a visual representation. You can't put a picture to fun loving. You can't put a picture to ambition, you know, but that's a feeling. And that's what branding is. Branding is really a feeling that you're selling. It's a perception that you're selling. The one most tricky part about a brand is the fact that perception is built and could be subjective as well. So I might have a different experience of the Apple brand or any other brand, you know. But again, someone else might have a different feeling or different experience and different perception of that different brand. It doesn't change who the brand is, but it changes the perception that you have of the brand. So the one thing that you have to consider each time that you're building your brand as well is that people might experience it differently depending on what they bought from you, what the experience was when they bought from you, the service offering, the app, the user experience of whether an app or a product, a store, the perception will change depending on how they experience you, meaning that your brand can change depending on the person who's experiencing it as well. So to just recap it, a brand is a perception. And I think the one misconception that people have is that not everyone has a brand. And I'm here to tell you that each and every one of you on this call has a brand, or rather you are a brand. The difference between one person and another might be the fact that you decided to not work on your brand while other one is intentionally trying to work on their brand in order to bring sales, in order to increase their reputation, increase their brand loyalty, or increase their authority within the industry as well. So working on your brand helps you like be above the competition or above whoever else is within the same industry. So if we're all here selling eggs, let's just pretend we're all in the egg business, right? If we're all in the egg business and we're all selling at the market, right? And everyone has that brand and has their own reputation within selling those eggs. But I then decide I'm not going to just sell all regular eggs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to package my eggs so that's like 4 eggs per package. I'm going to put a cute logo on it. I'm going to call them Amanda eggs. and I'm going to say that I'll deliver the eggs to my customers. By doing that and by elevating the experience of my customer, I've already now become higher than every other competition. I've become higher than everyone else who's selling eggs because I'm offering something unique, and I'm offering a unique selling point within the market that I'm already running. Not that the competition isn't there. The competition will always be there. And there's honestly nothing new under the sun. So it's a matter of deciding the industry you want to play in and why, what makes you different. So if I'm going to decide what's going to make me different is I'm going to package them for each. I'm going to put a logo on it and I'm going to deliver to my clientele. And by deciding to do that, I'm already deciding to like do something that my competitors are not doing, like you guys are not doing, as my other egg competitors. And the other thing that it allows me to do, it allows me also to sell at a premium price. So if everyone here is selling an egg for $1, which would be a very expensive egg, I can now sell at $1.50 or $2 because I'm firstly giving you four at one time and I'm delivering it to your house. So by virtue of me deciding to also add value to my service offering, I've already now added value to my brand as well. Where someone would say, I'm going to buy rather from Amanda other than a Palumi because Palumi says I must come to him to buy the eggs. And I'm saying, no, I'll deliver the eggs to your house. And by taking things that are going to be different within your business, by elevating your business, you're elevating your service offering, you're elevating, you're adding value to your customer to the point where it's not just old regular eggs, okay? But it becomes an experience that you're selling, and that helps you elevate your brand. It helps you, be bigger than the competition, even though the competition, you might have started exactly where the competition is, but you decided to elevate what you're doing. So I think within your business, think about certain things that you can do that will bring like a value add to your customers that can say, okay, fine, there are these competitors and there are these alternatives that people use, but I much rather buy from Amanda's eggs because she decided to elevate her experience by delivering to me, by giving me three for the price of two, or two for the price of one. Those specials, brand loyalty is saying after you buy your first four batches of eggs, the fifth one is free. That brings in a lot of brand loyalty to the point where they will definitely choose you and not the competitor. And it had nothing to do with the price point. My price point might be higher, but my value is also higher. And the price that I'm selling at automatically speaks to the value that I'm bringing. So my value, my price is the same, while everyone else might be saying, I'm still just going to sell eggs at the market at $1 a pop. And I might say mine is $2 each, but it comes with this kind of experience as well. So if you want to elevate your business and elevate your brand, you have to think about the overall experience that you're giving your customer. But when it comes to customers, I think the most tricky thing is, I think a lot of businesses, specifically in Africa, and I've worked with a lot of brands and a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs across this continent, and a lot of them don't know their customers the way they should. And I will always say that when you are in business, you have to know who you're selling to. You need to know what that person had for breakfast. You need to know honestly what time they go to bed. That's how intimately you need to know the customer that you're trying to serve, because you can only serve someone if you know what their problem is that they're experiencing, and being able to offer them a solution that will make sure that they stick with you and you like build that brand loyalty. If you don't know the people who you're selling to, you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, who am I selling to? What do they have for breakfast? Where do they spend their time online? Because that immediately and directly impacts how you do your business and how you grow your brand. And in knowing who your customer is, it's not a matter of saying, I'm selling eggs to mothers in the city. That's not enough to say you know your customer. You can't say, I'm selling to mothers. I'm saying mothers because it's Mother's Day tomorrow, but like on Sunday rather. But it's like you can't say I'm selling to mothers in Abuja. Like honestly, that is a huge market. So you need to segment your market so much that you're speaking to a specific person, to the point where you'll say, I'm speaking to a mother with these amount of children. This is where she lives. This is how old she is. This is her income bracket. This is where she works rather. This is what she has for breakfast. To the point where you're talking about this is where she spends her time online. If you're trying to offer a service to a person, I'll give myself an example. If you're trying to sell a service to me and I'm your target audience, you need to know where I spend my time online. If you know that Amanda spends maybe 70% of her time on Instagram, guess where your brand needs to be more prominent? Your brand needs to be more prominent on Instagram. And if ever I spend most of my time on Facebook, on Pinterest, on YouTube, if that's where I'm spending my most of my time online and you're trying to reach me as a customer, that is where your brand needs to be. Because your brand will not like get to people where you're not going to them. Like you can't expect for people to come to you all the time. You need to find your customers exactly where they're at. And that means that if ever you're selling to, like I was saying, mothers, you need to know where they're spending their time online. What is the reason for, what is their buying decision? And that is a big question that you need to answer. If you're saying what's their buying decision, that means you're saying this mother buys something specifically if it's good for their for her children. She will buy something like, oh, if I buy this TV, it'll be good for my children to watch Coco Melon. That's a buying decision. If ever all her buying decisions comes from or is impacted, comes from a point where she wants to do anything that's beneficial to her children, you need to know that because that will directly impact how you sell to her and how you put your brand across. Because then at the end of the day, that will also impact your communication, how you communicate your brand to people. That means like your ad will say, um, let your children watch Coco Melon, buy this 50-inch TV, and they will be entertained for hours. Do you understand that by understanding who your audience is, you already have messaging of how to speak to that person? Because again, you already know what this person's buying decision is. If you know that they buy something specifically because it has benefited their children, it will benefit their children or family, and if that's how she makes a buying decision, other people make buying decisions from a price point. You know, it's like, oh, I'll buy the cheapest one, or I'll buy the one that is most expensive, or they might make buying decision through comparing value. You know, this one gives me more value than the other. But that will only happen, or you will only benefit from that kind of insight if you have done that research. So you need to know, who am I selling to the point where you literally know this person's life. You need to know, like I said, what they've had for breakfast. You need to know where they spend their time online, where they spend the time offline, and also, most importantly, the competitors that they're buying from as opposed to buying from you. And you need to also check what are the alternatives that they're using. And I'll explain what an alternative is, which is in the same bracket as competitor, but it's not exactly the same. So if we're talking about mothers who are buying water bottles, you might say there's competitor A, competitor B, both of them sell water bottles, right? But an alternative is if the mother is not using a water bottle, what else is she using? She's probably using a mug, a cup, a plastic cup, a glass. You know, they're using different things which are alternatives to the water bottle. So you need to know within your market, if ever I have an app, an Uber app maybe, that's where people can, you know, do taxi hauling and get an Uber come to their house and whatnot. It's great. That is an example of, you know, what a competitor would do is exactly the same kind of app. They might be bringing a different kind of value, but the alternative to that is maybe them calling auntie whoever saying, hey auntie, come pick me up, or them getting on a bike, them getting on public transport. So those are alternatives as opposed to competitors. So you need to look at who are the competitors within your market, but also understand what the alternative is. But alternative would not be you looking at who are my alternatives in your market, but look at what your customer is using as an alternative. So if ever your customer, like I was saying for with the water bottle example, is if ever I'll obviously say, okay, there's water bottle A, water bottle B. Those are to the same, it's the same company, or not same company, but same industry. But the alternative is, what is that person, when that person's not drinking water from a water bottle, what else are they doing in as an alternative? Look at that as well when you are putting together your customer persona. And I need you, when you're putting together the customer persona, you need to go as in detail as possible. How old this person is, like I said, where they spend their time online and offline. The reason why offline is very important when it comes to your customer is, as much as we might rely on social media, digital media in order to reach our clientele, it's not the only way. So if ever Amanda is your audience and I'm maybe spending my time online on Instagram or on YouTube, where I spend my time offline is just as important. Because at the end of the day, even if I buy from you online, at the end of the day, I still need some level of interaction with you offline. And offline might be a product that I actually buy from you and I can touch it and feel it, which becomes a physical representation of who your brand is to me. So branding is really holistic. It's not just a logo at all. You know, when someone asks you, hey, how does your brand look like? Showing them your logo is something that you might do because maybe it's the only thing you have, but your logo is not your brand. And I need you, if you've learned nothing from me today, learn the fact that your logo is not your brand. But the brand is a perception. Like I'm saying, it's very holistic. And there's a lot of research that goes into developing your brand. But the easiest, most like lowest hanging fruit of you developing your brand, it really comes from knowing who your audience is to the point where you know them better than they know themselves, because when you know someone, you know exactly how to serve them. And I'll put it in the context of you know, a friendship or family. Like if someone, you spend enough time with someone, you end up knowing, oh no, this person doesn't like water with ice, or this person prefers chicken over fish. This person does this and not that. And you're able to serve them better because you know them to that level. To the point where when you're sitting at a restaurant with maybe your sister and you know the person and you've spent time with them, you've done your research on them, and they've told you, I prefer chicken over fish. The minute you sit down and order food, you already are saying, no, don't give us the chicken menu, give us the fish menu, because you know the person. And that's the level in which you need to know your customer as well, to the point where you can serve them things that they didn't even know they needed. And that directly impacts how you communicate, even on your social media. So if you're going to offer your services to a variety of mothers, that can come out on your Instagram bio. It can come out on your TikTok bio. It can impact what your content looks like as well. So if you're selling water bottles to mothers in Abuja who like sustainable, water bottles, who want a filter on their bottles, who are concerned about, like that kind of thing, you already know how to communicate your value to those people. And when you're communicating your value, you're not going to just say, we sell water bottles and that's it. That's not where it's going to end. You're going to say, selling sustainable water to keep you hydrated for your children's sake. Like it really impacts directly how you're going to communicate to your people. It's going to directly impact your identity, because I think two of you said your brand is your identity. It directly impacts who people see you as, because then they see you as this person who brings value to their lives, because at the end of the day, you're trying to bring value to your life as well. So branding is, like I'm saying, very holistic in how you need to look at it. Each and everyone here has a brand. You just need to be conscious and what is the word? The conscious and very intentional. That's the word. Intentional in building your brand, intentional in wanting to build your brand as well. And I mentioned earlier that there's a difference between a business and a brand. You can decide to elevate your business by building a brand around it. And you can have a brand without a business. It's totally possible. And I think having a brand without a business, it's mainly possible when it comes to personal brands. So if I consider myself as a personal brand, but I don't sell anything, I don't sell a service, but I talk about something specific, I have a specific audience, but I don't necessarily use that to my advantage in order to build a business. Totally possible, not recommended, but it's something that can happen. And you'd have businesses that don't have brands. And I'll make an example with, imagine a hospital that needs syringes on a daily. On a daily, they need a large number of syringes because there are a lot of patients coming in and out, and they need to do a lot of testing and all of that. why they buy or how the buying decision of those syringes hardly come from a branding perspective, because you might find that the company that they're buying for is from is probably called syringe dot, syringes incorporated, and you would never know that. It doesn't matter to the patient what syringe. Like, have you ever like gone to a hospital and they said they were going to do some tests and they needed syringes? Have you ever cared which syringe they're using? You don't care whether they're going to use a syringe called Amanda syringes versus a syringes incorporate. It matters not to you. What matters to the hospital is, does it work? Is it clean? How many can we get on a daily? Whether they have a cute logo, they have a website that says best syringes in Lagos. Half of the time, that's not going to matter. So there are certain businesses in different industries that don't depend on branding in order to sell, because they're not selling to, how do I say this? They're not selling to the end consumer, they're selling to organizations rather. And sometimes you can get away with not necessarily building a brand around your business, but not that your business won't have a reputation, it will. Reputation and branding is not the same thing. They work hand in hand together, but not exactly the same thing. So your brand might have a reputation, or rather your business might have a reputation like, oh, these syringes from Syringes Incorporated are always the best. These syringes always, they always work, they always deliver on time. That's reputation. You have a reputation, excuse me, you have a reputation of always selling on time, or delivering on time, of having good products offering, but it hardly has to do anything with your brand. But if your reputation is good, it becomes easier to build a brand from there. So if any of you here has a very good business, and has a very good reputation in having built your business, it becomes easier for you to build a brand out of that by elevating it, bringing a logo to it, bringing visual elements to your brand, bringing communication to your brand, that at the end of the day elevates you as a business and puts you above, a cut above the rest of the people who you're kind of serving. So it becomes very important for you to know the audience that you're selling to in order for you to bring that kind of value, and know that branding and business, though they work hand in hand together and can work hand in hand together, sometimes they're not really the same thing. But I know I spoke about, and like I said, I wanted to speak to three things specifically. I think the first thing that I wanted to kind of speak to is, what is a brand? And I think I spoke about that mainly in describing what a brand is not, and then later on mentioning what a brand is. The second point is really in knowing your audience. If you want to elevate your brand, you have to know your audience to the T. And I will say this again: you need to know your audience better than they know themselves. And I think thirdly is knowing exactly the problem that you're solving. And I remember I was actually running a workshop in the past 2 days with a couple of businesses in South Africa who are in this accelerator program, and they are currently, trying to build their businesses, and they're all in grassroots level. They're like pre seed funding level of their businesses. Others are still ideas, and you realize that some people want to have businesses for the sake of having businesses. For the sake of saying, I'm a CEO and founder, for the sake of saying, I run a business. And you realize that people have this grand idea of the things that they want to do, but the things that they're doing don't solve an actual problem, you know? And I'll go back to this water bottle example. And I think I always make this water bottle example, is that when you are starting a business, and let's say I'm saying, I want to develop a water bottle for mothers specifically, that it's a sustainable water bottle, that has a filter in it. If I'm saying I'm solving a problem of the fact that women, or rather mothers, don't drink enough water, please tell me if that's like a valid problem to be solving. Because for me, as much as it might be a problem, but like it's not that much of a problem. They'll just drink water at home or whatever. It might be a silly example, but then I think when it comes to building your brand, understanding what branding is and the psychology behind it, understanding who your audience is, but also understanding the problem that you're trying to solve, and researching, knowing that problem so much to the point where you know how to solve it, because knowing the problem allows for you to solve it properly for the right people. And the reason why I'm saying know the people first before the problem, because the people will almost tell you the level in which the problem is a problem for them. Because if you're solving a specific problem to maybe two people, maybe a clone of myself, it might not be a super big problem to me, while for someone else, it might be a huge problem. So it might be the same problem, but we're experiencing it in different levels. Hence, it's very important for you to know who your audience is so that you can know at what level are you solving this problem. And then thirdly, knowing what is this problem, right? And I think knowing those three things validates your business idea, it validates your brand as well. Because at the end of the day, I think the fourth thing would be for you to actually know that your problem can solve, I mean, rather your solution can solve the problem that you've identified. It can solve it for specific people, and it can you can build a brand out of it as well. Because if you know the people, you know the problem, you know the solution, it's easy for you to build a brand from there. Building a brand, I don't even want to tell you guys, it's honestly not that difficult. But there are difficult questions that you need to answer in order to build your brand. You need to answer the question of am I solving a valid problem? Am I solving an actual problem that exists? And from this problem, is my solution the best thing to solve this problem? So if you want to solve world hunger and you want to maybe build an app that tells people where there are trees with fruits, okay? Yes, you've identified a problem. Is it a valid problem? Yes. But the solution you're trying to bring to this problem, is it valid enough to solve that problem? I'd say no. So if you need to answer yes to both of these questions in order for you to have the fundamentals of building a brand. And I think I might be sounding like this might sound like a whole business class or whatnot. And it's not, because like the fundamentals of building a business are the same fundamentals of building a brand. Because if you attend any of my master classes or you attend any of the workshops that I do, you'll realize that the questions that I ask in the beginning stages of any master class or any program that I'm doing, I'm answering business questions that directly impact, that directly impact your brand at the end of the day. Because if you don't know the problem that you're solving for the people and who you're solving it for, I can't help you build a brand. It's impossible to build a brand if you do not know who you're trying to speak to and what you're saying to them. And once you know all of these four things, you know what a brand is, you know who your audience is, you know the problem you're solving, you know the solution you're trying to bring to solve that specific problem, it becomes easier for you to even create content from your Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is. Obviously, it's very important to be very consistent in those four things. And it's very important to be very consistent in your communication of how you say you're solving a specific problem as well. So, like those four things for me have become very important. Obviously, there are other points, but if we're talking about the very basics of building a brand, those four things for me are the most important for you. And I'll repeat them. The first thing would be knowing exactly what a brand is. So the brand psychology is very important for you to understand, because when you're trying to, and I'm not saying know the depths of what brand psychology is, like you are a brand strategist, no, but the basics of knowing that a brand is not your logo, and a brand is a perception, and you're trying to build a perception in order for people to buy from you as opposed to the competitor or as opposed to an alternative. It's important for you to understand how people kind of think in that case, how people buy, what people do to make buying decisions, what makes them buy from me as opposed to a competitor. All of those things are the things that are behind the brand, the brand psychology behind it. That is the first thing that's very important. The second thing, before like before I wrap up, also because I do want to be able to kind of take your questions if possible. The second thing, like I said, it's knowing your audience. I feel like the message that I've brought in life to business owners worldwide is to know your audience. Like that is the one thing in my life that I will continue saying day after day after day. Know your audience. And obviously, as a business, you probably don't have one primary audience. You have probably three. You have a primary, secondary, and a tertiary audience. And they're not all the same. If I give you an example of the three tiers of your audience, making the example of the water bottle thing, my first tier would be mothers in a specific area who forget to drink water because they're always busy with their children, but they're very much health conscious. So they want a filter in their bottle. They want sustainability within their bottle as well. They want to make sure that they're drinking clean water in order to stay healthy for their kids. That's my first primary audience, right? Secondary might be non-mothers, people who are not mothers, but who are still health conscious and save the world type of conscious. They're very conscious buyers. They still want to consume things that are healthy for them. They might not be mothers, they might be working professionals, but they appreciate a water bottle that can solve that problem. So you might have identified that you want to solve the problem for mothers, but that doesn't mean non-mothers will not buy buy the product, because they might still be wanting to buy something that is sustainable, buying something that has a filter in it as well. That becomes your secondary target audience. So when you're putting together your messaging and your communication, how you communicate your brand to people, you don't necessarily if those are your two primary and secondary, you won't always say bottles for mothers. If you have identified that second one to be your secondary audience, you won't always say bottles for mothers. You might say bottles for sustainable whatnot. You might say it differently depending on who your audience is. But again, I will say this again, you see how when identifying the people who you're trying to sell to, it directly impacts and changes how you communicate what you're saying. Because if I had said we're only selling to mothers, my communication would have been bottles, sustainable bottles for mothers. But because I've identified a secondary target audience who might not be mothers, who might be working professionals, but who still love sustainable, working things, and you might realize, shucks, actually, my solution or my product might be solving a wider problem than just for mothers, and that might also change how well you know the problem that you're solving, which gets me to the third thing: the problem that you're solving. Do you know the problem that you're solving? So if you've researched the problem, you might then realize that, Chucks, actually, maybe I don't need a water bottle specific for mothers. Maybe I just need to create a water bottle that is specific to conscious consumers. People are conscious about what they eat, what they drink, who are conscious about where things come from. Are they biodegradable? Is this sustainable? Is this recyclable? Maybe you're selling to that kind of consumer as opposed to just mothers. Because if you said mothers, not every mother is a conscious consumer. Not every mother is conscious about drinking either water from the tap or from a water bottle. It's not always the same in that case. So knowing your problem and knowing your audience will get you debating what your what you're doing. It'll get you debating what the problem is, what the solution is, who I'm solving this problem for. Because you might find that as you're answering certain questions from your audience side, you might realize that your branding is actually off, for you. The problem that you're trying to solve is off. And once everything kind of aligns, from you knowing what a brand is, you knowing who your target audience is, the problem that you're solving, the solution you're trying to bring into the market, once you know all of those four things, it makes it easier for you to know what the communication is to your audience. So if you're going to communicate on Instagram, YouTube, websites, app, wherever it is you're trying to communicate to your audience, it makes it so much easier for you to communicate because you know who they are and you know the problem that you're solving, and you also know the solution trying to bring in. Those three things, they need to merge like seamlessly. If there is at any point of these three tiers, audience, problem, and solution, that there is a gap between the two, whereas one is not answering the other, you might find that you need to go back to the drawing board, do some research, and see whether you're actually solving a valid problem or not. And I think the minute you try to get into business as well, you have to think, am I even solving a valid problem? And am I the right person to solve this problem? Which is a question that I'd want you to ask yourself. As much as you've identified the audience, you've identified the problem, and you know what your solution is, you need to also think, is your business the best person or the best business to solve that problem? If ever I'm solving a problem of world hunger, and I'm saying I'm solving it with an app that tells you where the best fresh fruits are, Am I the best person to solve that problem? And how you answer that is like, do I have the resources to solve this problem? Can I solve this problem better than the people who are currently solving this problem, which gets you into thinking about your competitors in the market and the industry you're trying to get into. Like, you need to really ask yourself so many questions. And I think asking yourself whether you're the best person to solve a specific problem gets you, it brings a certain level of imposter syndrome also, because you think, ish, but there's so many people out there in the world who could be solving this problem better than me. But you need to be thinking, what is the thing that for me is my unique selling point that I can communicate my value to the people who I'm selling to in order for them to buy from me as opposed to my competitor, even if my competitor has been there for 15 years and I just started a year ago. So it becomes very important for you to answer those kind of questions for yourself. So I'll just recap again as we close, and I'll just kind of take, I know we've got like 9 minutes left, but like in as I'm just going to wrap up by repeating these four, and I'll repeat them again because honestly, the second one for me is the most important. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box, or we can just like do a Q&A right at the end as well. The first thing for me that is super important, like I said, know what branding is, know what branding is not, so that you can be able to identify where your brand stands in the midst of things. So it's like, do I think my logo is my brand, or do I still need to do work in terms of building the foundations of my brand itself? Second thing you need to understand is like, do I know my audience? Who is my audience, primary, secondary, and tertiary? And don't just say, no, we've created an app, or we've created um a water bottle for mothers in Abuja. Like, I need you to be more specific. Give that person a name, give that person an age, where they live, how much they earn, where they work, how many kids they have, what they ate for breakfast, where they spend their time online, where they spend their time offline. What are their alternatives? If they're not using my product, who they're using for? What is their buying decision? I need you to ask yourself those questions and actually answer them according to who your target audience is and who you've identified your target audience is. And when you do identify them, like I'm saying, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Someone hardly ever has only one primary target audience. If you've only lined out one target audience, that means you've not done it right. So you need to have at least two, and some have three, some have a couple of target audiences, depending on the industry you're trying to play in. The third thing, know the problem that you're solving, specifically pertaining to the audience who you're trying to solve it to. If you're trying to solve a world hunger problem, you're trying to solve a a water bottle issue, problem, whatever it is, articulate that problem so much to your audience that they need to feel like, this person knows me. This business knows me so well. I'm definitely going to buy from them because they know me. So you need to make sure that at the end of the day, you know the problem so well. And knowing the problem also includes researching the industry you're trying to play in, because you're not the only person trying to solve that problem. So you need to then understand, yes, there is this problem, but how are other people solving this problem? And what can make me different in solving that problem, which then brings you to the solution. And then it's like, for me, I'm going to solve this problem in this way because I know that the other people within the market solve it in this way. And you would have already known from your audience side that my people, the people I'm trying to sell to, are using XYZ as an alternative or as a competitor. So this is where I need to put my solution. And you realize I put solution right at the end. And I know a lot of people, when they start their businesses, they start with, I want to bring this thing to the market. I'm like, okay, sure, great. Let's not focus on the thing you want to bring to the market. But do you know the people who you're trying to bring into the market to? Do you know the market you're trying to get into? Do you know the industry you're trying to get to? And then get to the solution and refining the solution so well that you can also communicate how you're trying to do it to the audience as well. So those are the four, I think, fundamentals of building and elevating your business and developing your brand. But one thing that I must remind you, that building a brand is not something that happens overnight. So if you're expecting to start today and finish tomorrow, I need you to know that building a brand, just like building a business, building an overnight success usually takes about 5 to 10 years. That, unfortunately, is the sad truth of building a brand and building a business. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of trial and error. It takes a lot of tenacity. You need to not give up. because building a business, building a brand is difficult. It comes with its challenges, but it's rewarding at the same time. So you have to be very patient with yourself and not expect for you to build a business today and for it to automatically, or build a brand today and have it automatically be the best brand that exists tomorrow. That is not going to happen. So you need to be patient with yourself and remember to it's trial and error as well. You might put together a beautiful strategy and a beautiful brand for now, but the minute you start testing it out in the market, you realize it doesn't work as well as I thought it does. And then you just need to adjust, test, and do it again. And once you have, okay, fine, we have this product. It's the same as having an MVP. You find we have this product, we have this thing. You need to test, adjust, and do it again. If you're going to build a business, build a brand, you have to test, adjust, and do it again, because it's not going to work out perfectly the first time. And there might be certain kinks with your messaging, with your branding. It's like, oh, we had tried this blue, but our audience doesn't like it. We're going to go back to a green, or we're going to do this product like this. Test, adjust, do it again. And like, if honestly, if you learned nothing from me today, let it be the two things: that your brand, your logo is not your brand. But again, when it comes to building a brand, you need to test, adjust, and do it again in order for you to build a sustainable, but good brand as well. It is very possible. We're not just building businesses; we are literally shaping futures. And you need to remember that if you want to build the overnight success, it might take a couple of years. It's taken me a couple of years to build an overnight success, and I still feel like I'm not an overnight success. So, thank you to everyone who kind of attended today. But if you have any questions, I'm really like happy to take any of your questions, whether it's pertaining your specific brand, and I can give advice here and there as much as I can with the little knowledge that I have gained over the years. I'll be able to kind of assist if I can. So, thank you so much for listening through. I know I spoke a lot. And I speak a lot with my hands as well. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you will remember those 4 things that I have mentioned. But if you have any questions, you can either put it in the chat box, or you can just unmute yourself and we can kind of take some questions. Not sure how you want to do it, Palumi, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda. That was really, really informative. I really learned a lot myself. It's been fun having you here. Guys, do you have any questions for Amanda? 'Cause I feel like she's been distilling a lot of sense to us today. You can even
I hope so.
see, well, I've tweeted it, and it's been really cool. So, guys, who has questions for Amanda? Come on,
That
any
was very
questions?
clear. You know, when there's no question, that means that everything I said was super clear and everyone heard it.
Yeah. Okay. Since there are no questions for Amanda, we're really thankful that you took the time to come here. We really appreciate the time. This has been really great, and we definitely enjoyed every minute of it. We we're going to edit the video, and then we're going to upload it. But there are already the live tweets there, and we're going to share that with you as well. So to everyone else who came, thank you guys for joining. We really wish that. Uh,
Mary has
okay,
arrived.
Mary.
Oh no, I didn't have a question. Sorry, that was I mistakenly pressed the hands up button on my phone. Thank you so
Oh,
much, Amanda. The session has been really informative, and I think as a sales and marketing executive, I think I really needed this class so much. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
no,
Well
thank you.
done.
Thank you.
thanks, Mary. Roke, you said something in the chat, but I'm trying to figure out what it means. Could you please retype that?
Oh, I think you're saying what I said, like test, adjust, and do it again.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the time that you've all taken to join us, and we definitely look forward to seeing you again. The next masterclass is happening in June, and we're expecting everyone to join as well. Invite others, let them come and learn. Don't hold this information to yourself. And do have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.